Hey, MCARBO brother, I'm Chris Nelson, President of MCARBO. Really excited to remake the video for the Browning X-Bolt, going over in more detail as you guys requested. So happy to accommodate, happy to give you more information, more detail on how to adjust the trigger. These are adjustable triggers from the factory. It's got a set screw in there that allows you to put more tension on that trigger Sear spring or put less tension on it, thereby allowing you to make the adjustment on the trigger, making it lighter or making it heavier. So the more tension you put on it, the heavier it's going to feel. The less tension you put on it by loosening that screw, the lighter it's going to feel. So we're going to go into deep detail on that. One of the great things about this kit is that, yes, this is an adjustable trigger, but only as far as that spring will allow. So that trigger Sear spring from the factory is pretty heavy for what it is. They don't want you to go lower than 3. 3 still leaves a lot to be desired on a hunting rifle or target rifle, anything for that matter that requires good accuracy, a nice light trigger. Now these triggers are fantastic in terms of clean, smooth trigger pull. They definitely feel very smooth. They did a great job. You know, their new line of feather triggers, which is essentially the same thing, the same X-Bolt trigger, but they polished it. They changed some of the engagement geometry very slightly, but other than that, primarily the same. This kit will work on all X-Bolts. We haven't had one yet that it wouldn't work on. And we've been selling this kit for some time now, and a lot of guys love it. And I like how simple and easy it is. You can quickly blow about 200 bucks on a timney trigger, which you're gonna get basically the same thing here for 10% of that cost. So really excited about that. So you're gonna save you about 180 bucks that you can put into on a good scope, because you already spent a good amount of money on this X-Bolt to begin with. So why go in there and replace a trigger that is really good from Browning to begin with? The only thing is they just made it a little bit lawyer proof. They didn't want you going below 3. So this spring's going to allow you to go below 3. It's going to get you that 2-pound trigger or sub 2-pound, which we're going to go over with this one right here. So we're going to do another installation on a brand new X-Bolt, go through it, talk about the adjustment screw, how you can get a little bit lighter than 2 with this kit. Really excited about it. 50% reduction for your Browning X-Bolt trigger at 1/10 of the cost for a timney trigger. Take that 180 bucks we just saved you and put it towards a good scope. Let's get on our tabletop, show you how we did it. Before we get started, let's go ahead and check our firearms together, make sure they're clear. We got the Browning X-Bolts here. This is a brand new Browning X-Bolt that we just picked up, and this is one from the original video here. So we'll go ahead and check chamber, bolt face, magazine well. All right, we're good to go there. Same over here, chamber, bolt face, magazine well. All right, both firearms are clear. Start off with a little trigger pull reading just to see how we're doing between both firearms. All right, so we're going to test this Browning first. Still got the original sticker on it. All right, brand new, so we'll see what we're getting for a factory trigger pull, and this is the one we're going to upgrade today. Let's see what we get for a factory trigger pull reading. 4 pounds, 4.5 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 4 pounds, 1.9 ounces. All right, so about a 4-pound trigger pull starting on the brand new X-Bolt. All right, let's jump on over to the X-Bolt that we modified in the original video. So this is the one with the little muzzle brake on the end, the long barrel. All right, different stock, but essentially the same thing. I mean, these are both X-Bolts, so nothing to worry about there as far as will it work, will it not work with mine. It'll work for all the X-Bolts, so really excited about it. They use the same trigger assembly in all of them, which makes it real simple. So we'll go ahead and test this one. All right, let's see what we got for a modified trigger pull on this X-Bolt here. 2 pounds, 2.3 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 2 pounds, 4.2 ounces. All right, guys, so about a 2-pound difference between these. So the stock, we were coming in right about 4 and some change, and the modified right about 2 and some change. Now this modified, we could always go a little bit lighter. As you know, these triggers are technically adjustable, but they're adjustable from 3 to 5 pounds. So you don't have a lot of room there. What we are going to do is technically the same method to adjust your stock trigger. So if you wanted to try your stock trigger and adjust that first, go for it. But if you want to get something a little bit better than 3 pounds, this is the way to go. This is how you're going to get that 2-pound. And in this video, we're going to shoot for a sub 2 pounds. So we're going to go a little bit further than what we did in the past. In the past, we always recommended having 2 threads showing. It's just be safe. You don't want to have a half a thread engaging inside the trigger mechanism. You need to have a little bit more meat on that threaded screw inside the trigger assembly. So that's something we're going to go over. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to this remake. So just looking at Browning's page and looking at what they say about the new trigger, their feather trigger, the feather trigger is notoriously the same X-Bolt trigger. It's just the feather trigger is a Little marketing pitch, as well as they did some better polishing. So the internal parts are now polished up. They changed a little bit of the engagement surfaces here and there, but primarily it's essentially the same thing. So it's a really great trigger assembly. We really like this firearm. Love it all the way through. Just the trigger can be a little bit adjusted further. I mean, it's 3 pounds. Leaves a little bit room there for a little bit more competitive edge. So we're looking forward to this. It'll work for all calibers, barrel lengths, and models, current production and discontinued for the X-Bolt series, which is really exciting. We've been doing this kit for some time now. Never have we come across one X-Bolt yet that it didn't work for. So that's really exciting. So obviously it'll include your X-Bolt Max Long Range, your Pro, your Hell's Canyon, your Micro Composite, your Eclipse, your Target, you name it. The Medallion, the X-Bolt Hunter, the composite stocks, a stainless steel stalker. I mean, a lot of these things are just simple variations, you know, different stocks, different barrel lengths, different, you know, you got a muzzle brake on one like you do here, the original, and a super long barrel. There we go. All right, and this one here with a little short barrel and different stock configuration and everything else, and no muzzle brake. So you can see how all those variations can make it seem a little bit more complex than it really is. Really excited to get into this. I'm gonna rip them both open. I'll do 2, you guys do 1. And we'll work right alongside each other in this whole process. Really excited how simple and easy this is. Let's get on into it. Parts needed for this build: the Browning X-Bolt Trigger Spring Kit by M CARBO, a custom designed Sear spring to give you a nice, smooth, clean trigger pull, getting us below that 3-pound mark, getting us into a much more match-like trigger. Tools needed for this build: 1/8 inch punch, 3/32 inch punch, 1/16 inch punch, bench block, hammer, a 5/32 inch Allen key. You don't need a T-handle like this. It's just a nice to have. And a 5/64 Allen key, blue 242 Loctite or red Loctite will work, a pick or something sharp and pointy to remove that factory wax, little micro tip flathead screwdriver, and as always guys, make sure we're an iPro. All right, so here's the original Browning X-Bolt that we already modified the trigger on. This one we're already getting about a 2-pound trigger. So I'm gonna take it apart. I said I would. All right, go ahead and open the bolt like that, hit the release and pull the bolt out. All right, flip it upright. 5/32 inch Allen key to remove these 2 takedown screws. All right, just pop them right out of there. You'll notice this one is longer, all right, the one that's back here towards the trigger. All right, set it down. And this one up front's a little shorter. You also notice too, set them side by side, the longer one has a little step in it right there, see that? So just something easy to differentiate the two with. All right, and then you just pull up and out on the trigger guard, comes out just like that. See, there's the trigger guard there. Set that aside. Now we've got access to our trigger assembly. Pretty simple and straightforward. So from here, it's just a matter of taking your 5/64 inch Allen key and just removing that set screw right there. So pretty simple. You drop in your little Allen key and you rotate it out. Now you can also make adjustments here. So if you tighten up this screw, you're gonna increase the trigger pull weight. If you loosen the screw counterclockwise, you're gonna actually reduce the trigger pull weight. So you can see the way we got it set right here. We've got a certain amount of thread showing. So you can see right here, we got about 2 threads showing. All right, that's what we're going for. If you want to get about a 2-pound and some change trigger pull reduction, if you want to get that sub 2, we're going to go for 3 showing. All right, and just for comparison's sake, I'm just going to use a set of calipers here and just get a little reading on how much is actually exposed. So not everybody's going to have calipers, but 55 thousandths is exposed. All right, and we'll review that here again in a minute. But that was basically all I want to do at this point. Now, to get the factory screw out, you got to go through this hole right here. All right. In the original video, man, there were guys saying, "It looked like you bored out that hole." No, I just scratched it to pieces trying to get that thing out. Now, obviously, I didn't really have a good idea on how to get it out initially, so we had to go about it a few different ways. Now we've got a better method. All right, it'll be a little bit more straightforward, although that method does work by compressing it and popping it up and out. It's just whether you want to do it or not. I mean, you can always disassemble that trigger mechanism completely, but that would make it way more time consuming than it really needs to be. It's pretty straightforward and simple. The problem is that factory spring is wider, all right, than the hole that set screw's in. So when they put it together, they obviously put it together from the opposite side. That was the old method right there, pretty simple. Let's put this aside, throw it back together real quick. So we drop the trigger guard back in place, take our longer screw, drop it right in the rear there. Take our shorter screw, drop it right in the front. Got our bolts all tightened up. Go ahead and drop in our actual bolt here. Hit the little release. Allow it to go forward. Oh yeah. All right, so we'll set this baby aside, don't need it anymore. All right, so now we're gonna disassemble this stock factory Browning X bolt here. All right, we're gonna do a disassembly. Here we go. All right, pull the bolt out, hit the release, bolt comes right out. All right, now we're gonna turn it upright, remove those same 2 screws. Pretty simple so far. Remember how those screws are a little different. You'll notice those similarities, right? Longer screw in the back. It's got that little taper right there. Shorter screw right there up front. Pull up and out on that trigger guard. You can see the trigger guard there. Exactly the same as the other one. Set that aside. And now we can see the internals here of this trigger mechanism. But wait, there's more. Now we're gonna go a little further. We're gonna go ahead and remove this stock completely. All right, so now you can get a good look at this trigger assembly here. Previously in the older videos, we just talked about going in here and removing that Sear spring. You'd have to break that wax. You're gonna have to break that anyway to make any adjustments to this trigger. All right, so whether you wanna go up from 3 to 5 or down to 3 as your base, that's how you're gonna make the adjustment. Now to remove that Sear spring, we would pry it out. And that's a method, and it works. It's worked for a ton of people, all right? So what we need to do now is separate this barrel and receiver from the stock, all right? And these stocks are already bedded, so it's gonna be snug, all right? So you're gonna have to really kind of pull on it a little bit to get it out. Maybe lay on the table, pull up on that stock a little. There you go. Now you'll see right there's the bedding. Doesn't hurt to take it out, and that's why they bed them, so that you can put them back in and it's repeatable. It's going to take up all that play between the barrel and the receiver, all right, making it much more accurate and much more reliable. So definitely a good thing on Browning there. All right, so now we've got the trigger mechanism exposed here, and we can start to get a little deeper into this. So what we need to do, you'll notice there's 2 pins that hold this trigger mechanism to the receiver. All right, we got to tap those out. All right, so take your bench block, go ahead and set it up on the bench block, grab your 1/16 inch punch, and your hammer. We'll just tap those pins right out. All right, there's 1. And there's 2. So there's the trigger mechanism right there. And you'll notice we tapped out from left to right because this pin has got a little knurl in there. So you can only tap them one way. So you tap them out from left to right, and we put them back in right to left. All right, and these pins are universal. Let me give you a little comparison. I'm going to pull this one the rest of the way out so you can see. All right, so you can see there the pins are universal diameter and length. All right, they both have that knurling on either side. All right, so we can set those down. But if you keep them in the same hole, that's good. All right, now we can look at this mechanism. All right, so here's trigger assembly right here on the X bolt. Pretty straightforward. All right, so you got your Sear right here, and you've got your Sear spring down in here. And now that you got it out, you'll notice when you start pulling on that trigger, it's that trigger Sear down there that's got all that tension on it, which is the set screw that locates over that trigger Sear spring that we're replacing. And you're able to adjust from the factory to make that trigger pull a little lighter, a little heavier. So you'll notice when you push down on that Sear, it's pretty light. So you got a big fat coil spring there. You can see how it's a conical spring. All right, and your Sear right here, okay? And you pull on the trigger, now you can see that trigger Sear down there. You see that silver piece that's moving forward and backward? All right, you can see the gold trigger in there pushing against it. So that's the big piece there. That's what's putting all that pressure on that trigger. So that's where all that trigger pull is. All right, then you got your bolt stop right here, and then you got your striker block right here, which acts like a safety. So really that's it. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Now this is a little further than what we did in the initial video. And the point of this is so that we can attack it a little different angle, all right? I remember getting called out. A couple guys are like, you bored that hole out more. No, definitely not. So you don't need to bore this hole out more. You just need to remove this set screw, and then we're gonna pry out that factory spring. So we're gonna relieve all the tension we can on this set screw here. So it's simple. Just a little bit of wax or dicum in there, all right? Just to kind of show that it's never been adjusted, set from the factory. So all we gotta do is pick it out. So that's why we have our little handy picks here and everything else. So you can just pick that stuff out. No big deal. Just clean it up a little bit until you can get in your Allen key, that 5/64 inch Allen key. I may have to kind of scrape it out a little bit. Scrape out that wax. You just got to kind of pop that wax out of there. The pick works great. All right, doesn't have to be perfect. Just enough so we can get our 5/64 inch Allen key in there. There you go. Get it in there, and then we're going to back this screw all the way out. Now, it is worth taking notice before we do that. Look at how many threads are showing right now. So you can see 1, 2, that's about it, right at 2. And we measured the other one there, so we'll measure this one. 057. Right at the same setting as that other X-bolt. So we were running with the same factory thread setting. This is adjustable from the factory, so we can take it out further. So we'll take it out another full turn when we go to actually install the lighter spring. We should have a nice light reduction. So we weren't even getting the full maximum before. So that was like a full turn almost. 0.75. So that's definitely doable right there. It's another full turn. .97. Let's do another full turn. But you can see about 1, 2, 3, 4 threads showing at this point. Another full turn, and that baby's almost out. That would be out. So I would not push it any further than that. So that 0.97 is the absolute maximum. All right. So you saw about 4 threads showing. That is the max. There is nothing really hanging on after that. So that's kind of good information to have as we proceed a little further here. So you'll notice typical spring is wider than the hole, which can be a problem if you want to remove it. But not really. Now that we're doing it this way, you know, we've removed the mechanism. We should have a little more access, the ability to look down in there. So you can see right in that window, you can see that little trigger sear spring in there. And it's held on by a little dimple. See that little dimple right down in that hole there? All right, that's what centers that coil spring. That is it. All right, so you can see that little dimple up there. So I'm going to use my little 1/16 inch punch, and I'm just going to push these coils of this spring all the way up till it's fully compressed and almost out of this hole, and just push it over. And then it'll just fall right out the top here. So just take your little 1/16 inch punch, and we're going to push up on those coils, and you should be able to see it here as I'm pushing up. You can see them all compressing. All right, and what they want to do is naturally just kind of jump away on you, like all springs do. That's a good thing in this case. So we're just pushing up on it. All right, you can see it kind of rising a little bit. Now the good thing is the replacement spring is going to drop right in that hole. So see that? I just pushed it right out. Now it's off that track, that little dimple, and there's our spring right there. We did pretty good. We kept it all intact. So I think we already beat that previous video there. All right, so there is the stock spring. So now we can compare it with the new spring. So we'll go ahead and set it down, do a little comparison. All right, now let's go ahead and open up our custom lighter trigger sear spring for the Browning X-bolt. All right, so there it is there. So let's go ahead and do a quick little comparison. Grab this factory trigger sear spring. So I got the M CARBO spring here on my right, and you got the factory one here on the left, and you can see a difference right away, and we can test that springiness, that tension. Look at that. That's awesome. So it's going to be much lighter, smoother, reliable, and safe. We'll even do a quick little drop test. I know everybody loves to see that. All right, so we'll take this stock spring, we'll throw it back in the bag. You know, you never know if you're able to salvage that spring. Handy just to keep it. And what I like about the M CARBO spring is we designed it to go in easily. So you didn't have to rip apart your trigger assembly. So it just drops right in. All right, and we'll just kind of feed it down in there. Want to get it completely in. All right, and that set screw is going to take it the rest of the way up. The other thing is too, we made sure it was a little bit longer so that it provided good engagement, right, with that trigger sear, even if you've got less threads inside the housing. So that's nice too. So we're going to take our little set screw, we're going to put some Loctite on there, because the goal here is to have as little threads engaging as possible, but safely, of course. So a good little generous amount of Loctite will do you. You know, blue's good, it's removable. You know, the manual doesn't even say you need Loctite, but since we're going to go at this with the intention of obviously leaving threads exposed, it's a good idea. All right, so what we'll do here is we're going to start out with 2 full turns, and then I'm going to measure it real quick, kind of see where we're at. All right, so once you feel the thread start engaging, we'll start counting. All right, so it's started. It's barely in there. And you can see how many threads are exposed right there. 1, 2, 3, 4.5, almost 5. And that's not even really in there. So now we'll start our count. All right, so 1 full turn right there. So that's 1 full turn right there. Let's go ahead and measure it. So 101 thousandths. All right, that's way above what we said was safe. Remember that? We said the 097 was safe. So we'll keep going, but that's pretty dang close. I mean, you're talking 4 thousandths right there, which 3 thousandths is the width of a human hair. So we're not off. And that's what I mean too. These are put together by human beings at the factory. There's gonna be a little variance there. You know, they're tightening them slightly different between all of them. So you may have a few thousandths here, a few thousandths there that are tightened in, making it heavier, or loosened, making it lighter. So we'll go ahead and we'll do 1 more full turn. .076. So that's good. So that's right at those 3 threads showing almost. You can barely see that top thread, but that's about the 3 threads. We said the 055 was the factory setting, which is about 2 threads. So that's 3 right there. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to back it off just a half turn because I want to see how light we can possibly get this. All right. So I'm right here. I'm just going to back a half turn right there. All right. Measure it real quick. 81 thousandths. All right. So a little extra, if you will. Not a big deal. You know, it's perfectly safe. You can try to wiggle it, see if it'll fall out. And once that Loctite cures, you know, needs 24 hours to cure, you'll be good. But if this is something you don't feel comfortable doing, and I hate to show this added complexity with measuring this and that, it's not that hard. You know, it's only as hard as you make it. I mean, this is just something a little more specific. We're getting some information here, some baselines for you guys to kind of run with. But if you want to send it in to us, we'll happily do it. You know, we do the custom work all the time. We do plenty of these triggers. So if you just want to send it in, you know, we got the custom shop, we got the shop rate. It's easy. You don't have to worry about it. It's done. It's a fair price. All right, so you can see there's about 3 threads showing. So you count this top 1, 2, 3. All right, and that's going to get us that lightest trigger pull reduction that is safe. You know, 097 is the absolute maximum. That's what we determined early on in this process. So we're going to run with that. And that should be enough to help get us under that 2 pound, which is exciting. All right, so we'll go ahead, we'll throw this back together. I just wanted to go over that in painful detail because I know it helps. So I hope you guys appreciate it. Let's put this baby back together and get some good trigger pull readings. All right, so now we're going to put the trigger assembly back into the receiver. You're going to need these little pins here. Remember, they're the same, they're universal. One side is smooth, one side's got these serrated lines on it. So definitely want to make sure we're pushing that smooth end in first. We don't want to run that through. It'll wallow out those holes on us. Take your trigger mechanism, all right, and you obviously want to line it up. All right, and what we want to do is flip it over first. We don't want to forget that. So we want to go in from the right side because when we tapped it out left to right. Now we're going to tap them in from right to left. All right, and you got your bolt lock here on the opposite side. So you'll see it sticking out. And it's a good time to take notice and double check, make sure everything looks right. Make sure that spring is locating just like this on that striker block inside that we reviewed earlier. All right, and your Sear here, you got your Sear spring. All the pins are there, the linkage is there, right, for your safety. And then you got your bolt lock right here. So all you gotta do is compress that. On the right side here is what we're looking at. We're gonna compress that little bolt lock and get that in the hole first. Then we're gonna line up these 2 holes here on the outer assembly. All right, so we compressed our bolt lock, we got it in place. All right, now you'll notice you're trying to line up these 2 holes in that trigger assembly. It's gonna fight you a little bit. You're gonna be like, man, what's going on here? So pull on the trigger, and that's gonna allow you to actually compress everything, and those holes are gonna line up perfectly. All right, you can see through them there on the table now. So we're good. So now we can start dropping pins in. So universal, dropping in the first one, dropping in the second one, keeping good tension on that assembly. And I'm just lightly tap, make sure I feel them going in. You know, it shouldn't be hard to tap these in. They just kind of fall in place until you get to those serrated edges there. And then I'm gonna take a little bit more. Then I'm going to grab my 1/8 inch punch and just drive them the rest of the way home. Alright, just make sure they're good and flush and seated just like that. We'll check the opposite side here, all the way through, good to go. Alright man, we're looking good. So now we're pretty much there, we just got to throw it back in the stock. Alright, now we're going to drop our stock onto the barrel receiver. Make sure this barrel lug right here is what locates inside this portion here on the stock. Alright, you see the bedding. It's going to be nice and tight and snug. Just line it all up and get it to press and seat in there real good. Alright. Definitely a solid, snug fit, which is good. All right, now we're going to drop the trigger guard right in. Simple. All right, take our longer bolt here with the shoulder on it. That's going to drop in right there next to the trigger guard. And then that shorter one's going to go up front. And then just get them started by hand. You'll take our 5/32 inch Allen key, and we'll start tightening them right up. All right, then just make sure they're good and snug. All right, good and snug. All right, now we just drop the bolt right in. We're just gonna line up those lugs there. Hit the bolt release. There we go, man. All right, let's do a quick little function check. All right, place it on safe, pull the trigger. Good, nothing. Place it on fire. Ooh. Man, that is nice. All right, let's measure this trigger pull. All right, let's see what we get for a modified trigger pull. 1 pound, 13.7 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 1 pound, 13.2 ounces. Well, there you have it, guys. A 50% plus trigger pull reduction on this Browning X-Bolt. We started at 4 and some change, got it to a sub 2 pound trigger just by going a little further on that adjustment. So this is adjustable from the factory. You can go from 3 to 5 pounds. You can only go as low as 3. All right, the spring in there is pretty stiff, as you guys saw. This is gonna get you that little extra mile. Really excited about it. You can get a little bit lower, feels so much better. This is exactly what you want in an adjustable trigger. Problem is, nowadays it's all about CYA, how lawyer-proof can we make it, all right? And they're just trying to cover for the masses. So if this is something that's in your wheelhouse and something that you're familiar with, I guarantee you're not one of those guys that they're gonna be worried about, all right? So just good trigger finger discipline. I'm gonna simulate the drop test, which is if you were walking around with it on fire and around the chamber, you never know. But I always wanna keep it as safe as possible. Now this is really high. So this is like 4.5 feet high. Not really your typical drop test, but sure, why not? Hate doing that. Bingo. So it's drop test safe, good to go. You can spend $200 on a timney trigger, or you can spend 1/10 of that and get the same results right here. These triggers from Browning are nice. They're smooth, they're polished inside. They improve the geometry a little bit to make it a little less of a gritty pull. So it's a smooth, clean, polished pull, just a little heavy. Now it's adjustable, but to 3 pounds. So now you can go below that. Really excited about it. Hope you enjoyed the lengthy detail. The guys asked for it, so there it is. Hope it's for you. Otherwise, the other video is shorter, 7 minutes. This one's a little bit longer. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you, MCARBO Brother, for all your ideas and your support. As always, happy shooting.